It was a big week for economic data. Still some key data points to come there with the inflation read on Wednesday. How is that all impacting gold? So let's get Bas Kooijman, DHF Capital CEO, to comment on that. So gold is I guess it's pretty steady ahead of that Fed meeting that comes next week. I mean, is that what we're just going to be treading water for when it comes to gold?
Yeah, Nadine, gold is really just staying stable at this moment. We actually saw a lot of volatility on Friday during the NFP numbers, non-farmers payrolls. Biggest news on the US economy every month, and we basically saw gold rising within the first couple of minutes, but then dropping for a couple of hours straight after it as the numbers were slightly less than expected. We always see gold is very actively responding to this. The change was not too big, so we basically saw a short impact in a couple of minutes, but in general, gold had a losing Friday. And everybody's kind of waiting what the next data releases are going to give us before they make any more decisions. The market just stable around this $2,500 an ounce mark.
Okay, so fast forward to the FOMC meeting, we get a 25 basis point cut. Is that enough to light a fire under gold? Like, what happens then?
I don't think it will light a fire. I think we've been really hovering just below 2,500, and we were expecting it to break with 20 August, the highest point of 25.30. After that, trying multiple times to break 25.25 and not yet going there. I do believe that in the long run, our predictions at DHF are probably closer towards the 3,000 or even 3,500 level, but we will have to wait. We don't see that happening yet this year.
Okay, so maybe later in the year, maybe next year. How do some geopolitical concerns around the world factor into gold? I mean, you know, arguably not a lot lately.
Not at this moment, but gold always is a very safe haven for investors during global tensions. We did see the big rise first with turbulence in Europe, later now also in the Middle East. Gold makes heavy spikes at those moments. So if anything would further escalate, than it already does, those targets are potentially hitting quicker than we expect from technical analysis perspective.
Okay, and again, a fundamental story is central bank buying of gold. Will that continue in a meaningful way? Is there anything to suggest that that could stop? I should probably phrase the question that way.
No, so I think that they will continue adding to their gold reserves, also due to the economic tensions, beating inflation. It is a good safety investment even for the central banks and governments. So I do believe that they are not stopping. They maybe just paused slightly of adding to their reserves. I see them as long-term investors. The moment they do add gold to their reserves, they mostly hold it for the longer run, versus the hike that we saw in April, which was mostly based on retail investors or hedge fund managers that were strongly having an interest in gold, and that would create a wilder volatility within the gold market. So we saw really big spikes, but they can also come out of the gold market very quickly again. So it's a stable investor in gold when central banks keep adding to their vaults.
Okay, so you did mention 3,000, even 3,500 per ounce. So tell me the time frame, or what investors, like what signposts investors should be looking for that would lead to that uplift, those record heights being achieved.
Yeah, we've seen multiple record heights during those starts of geopolitical tensions, so it will be hard to reach. We already saw 21% this year, so gold, I think, is outperforming almost every other asset class this year in at least a stable way. I do think that gold's 2,500 was kind of this year's target. If nothing else very spectacular happens in the next 2-3 months, cutting the interest rates should push up the price of gold, but we already saw the 50 basis points being adjusted to potentially 25. Maybe still seeing 1.5 or like 150 basis points this year. If that happens, it can push up to the maybe $3,000 mark. But we will have to see when the market numbers come out how the market reacts.